Hello and welcome to another video for AutoCAD. As you can see, we're going to cover paper space and layouts, as well as some options that you can do just to kind of customize your AutoCAD if you want to. That is also listed on the D2L as options, OP options, something like that. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to start with basically that little house that we've been creating all along. Now you may notice that I added a couple of options. I think I added some barn door options. So I have both a door that can go within the wall as well as a barn door. And over here in the bathroom, I have, a regular swinging door as well as a barn door. So those are two different options that a client may or may not want, and they want to see both options. Same with the furniture. I now have a couple of bed and desk and chair options. One in yellow that shows one option and one in orange. But notice they're overlapping. They're not supposed to be there at the same time. So what we're going to do is we are going to now move this drawing, which we've been drawing in model space this whole time. And you can tell that by two different ways. One, it says down here in the corner, this is highlighted model. And over here, it also says model. We are now going to go to paper space, which will use these two layout tabs. Don't click them yet. Okay. First, what we have to do is we have to create a layer for our viewport. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my layer properties and I'm going to create a new layer by clicking the new layer option right here. And I'm going to call this one viewport. At least that's what I call it. Sometimes AutoCAD actually creates that for you, which is kind of funny how sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I can give it any color I want because technically it's not going to show. And the way that I have it not show, meaning not plot, it will show up on my sheet, but it won't plot, is I actually click where it says plot up here. I click that and I get this red, what do they call that? Kind of like a delete symbol. So it will not plot when I print these on my paper. I'm also going to give it a color that I kind of want. Okay. I kind of like purple. So I usually give it a purplish kind of color. You can give it whatever color you want. Don't usually want to pick a yellow only because it's harder to see on your paper. So I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to make this layer current by double clicking here. Okay. Then I'm going to close my layer manager, still in model space. And the way that I go to paper space, which is exactly what it means, it's a piece of paper, is I click layout one. As soon as I do that, I get a white box. This white rectangular shape is a piece of paper, and the default is 8.5 by 11. You can change that, and we will do that a little bit later. Just going to show you the basics today. Well, a little bit more than the basics, but we can have this be a bigger size. We can have it be as large as a size that you would see at a construction site, which would be 24 by 36. But this is my piece of paper, and this dotted line around the edge is what they consider the printable area. Now, sometimes a printer will allow you to go beyond that, but it is a good practice to kind of stay within that square. Then, kind of zooming in a little, notice I have this square. This square is my viewport. It is in the color that I selected, that purpley blue color, right? And notice I am on the layer viewport, so I know that that's what it created on as well. This is kind of like looking through a window. So the white piece of paper is kind of like a wall to a house. And in order to see what I drew in the model space is to create a window. When I create a window and when you first click layout, it will go around everything in your drawing. So in my model, Even if I was zoomed in like this, it would still create a viewport as big as everything I have in my model space. Even if I drew a bunch of stuff all around here, it will zoom around everything. Okay, this is all I have, so this is all it shows in my layout. Okay, it also is at whatever scale can fit everything in there, right? A car obviously wouldn't fit on a piece of paper. Neither would a bedroom with a closet and a bathroom. They just wouldn't fit on a piece of paper. So you know how we have to use a scale to actually have those things show, and you draw that on a piece of paper at a certain scale. Same thing in AutoCAD. This viewport is set at some weird scale. So when I click the actual viewport, first of all, it tells me it's on the layer viewport. It says it's a viewport right here, but it also tells me down here the scale. Now, yes, it does say right here, annotation scale 1:1. We're going to talk about that when we talk about text and dimensioning. So don't look at that right now, even though I just showed it to you. Go down here where it basically says scale of the selected viewport. So this viewport is at some oddball scale, 0.017375, okay? But if I hit the down arrow right here next to it, then I actually bring up all the scales I can pick from. These are the defaults that AutoCAD gives you. Now, what is the scale that we most often show a floor plan? Do you remember that from your other classes? It's a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to select that one right here. 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. Not this one up here that says, whoops, tried to scroll up and it didn't quite let me. It's not the one that says 1 to 4. That's not 1/4 inch equals a foot. I do have to go where it actually says 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. Okay. Wow. It didn't change that much, but you see how it scaled in just slightly. Okay. So now my viewport is set at that scale. So it will print. So a 1/4 inch equals a foot. Another thing that kind of drives me crazy is that grid. It just automatically appears. So I always go downstairs. I always go down here and actually change that. And it looks like I don't even have that on down here. Where would that be? Wow, I can't even find that. Well, the reason I can't find it is I'm not actually in this window. Okay, all I did was click the frame. It's funny how you think you're in one view and you're not. The way that I get into this model space, because notice, let me show you what I mean. If I try to select something in here, even with a crossing, it says there's nothing there. It doesn't find anything. I have a piece of glass over my window. In other words, I can't actually reach inside and touch something in my model space. I'm just on my piece of paper looking through the glass window. So what I need to do is what I call open the window. And the way that I do that is I double click within that window. Now, if I click something in there, it selects it. It's actually reaching through the window. There's no more glass, and it's touching the things in the model space. Okay? By doing so, I'm going to hit escape so I can get out of that. I can actually now move my cursor around, and I can turn off that grid. So I'm going to go down here now and actually turn off the grid. Oh, that's so much better without the grid. If you like the grid though, go ahead, keep it on. That may help you. So that's a personal preference. But now I could actually zoom in and out, but the most important thing is I can pan. I can say, you know what, if I just want to show the car and the tree, I could do that. I just want to show the actual floor plan. So I'm going to just kind of center that. Okay. I also could zoom in and out, but watch what happens when you do that. If I zoom in or zoom way out or whatever I want to do, it changes that viewport scale. Okay, so I actually have to change it back to be a 1/4 inch equals a foot, like so. Then it'll zoom back in so that it is showing it at that proper scale. Going to kind of move that back into place. So notice you can change that either within this or just clicking the outline of that viewport. Notice what else though. I can do stuff in here, but I can't do anything out here. If I had something out here, I wouldn't be able to select it. I'm clicking with my left mouse and it's not letting me do anything. So if I had something on the piece of paper out here, I couldn't select it. I'm in only the window right now. So you can go back and forth between what they call floating model space. I know that sounds kind of weird, but they just mean that you are within the window. You're floating within the model space. Okay. And the way I can tell is model now reappeared. Okay. Two ways to get back and forth. You saw how I double clicked in here. I can also double click out of here. So if I double click with my left mouse, I'm now back in Paperspace again. And it's saying that I'm in Paperspace with this paper tab over here, if you can see that. And it's also showing me which layout I'm on. While I'm over here where it says layout on the left side, this is where I change it to basically be what I want it to be. Now, I am going to rename this. And I'm going to rename it something that will apply in just a second. The way I rename it is I right click. So I right click with my mouse and I go to where it says rename right here. I'm going to click that and I'm going to call this viewport, or I'm sorry, this layout option A. Let's call it that. Okay. I'm going to hit enter. And now it's renamed this piece of paper or this layout or this paper space, however you want to call it, option A. So what I want to do is show option A for my client. And this, by the way, you probably would want to lock this viewport. So the way I can do that so it won't scale in and out is I click it and I actually go to the lock right here, down here next to kind of close to that scale. Okay. There's a little like padlock. I'm going to click that so I lock it. So I won't zoom in accidentally and then change my scale again. Okay. So I'm going to double click out of that. Or wait, I'm still in Paperspace. If you just double click the edge, I'm sorry, if you just click the edge, you are just highlighting the viewport, but you're still in Paperspace. Okay. So I'm going to hit escape. But anyway, what I wanted to do is show my client only option A. And I have both options showing, right? Because I drew them both in model space. That's what's cool about going to Paperspace. I can have as many things as I want overloaded on top of each other, and I can just show what I want in my layout. Like I could draw in the reflected ceiling plan in the same drawing. I could put in different furniture layouts. I could maybe even put a second floor on top of the first floor and only show one floor per piece of paper. Okay? Hopefully that's making sense to you. If not, I'm going to show you another project where I do that as well. But I just want to show option A. So I'm going to double click within my window. Now I'm reaching inside and I'm going to go to my layer properties right here at the top. Notice what comes up now that I'm in Paperspace, what they call VP Freeze, which actually stands for Viewport Freeze. So what I can do is I can freeze and thaw layers just in the viewport. So it won't infect the entire drawing, no matter where it is on what piece of paper. It'll just affect what is in this viewport behind me, this window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the layer for door 2. Okay, not turn off, I'm sorry, freeze it. I'm also going to freeze the layer for furniture 2. So now, when I close my window, I'm sorry, close my, I'm blanking out here, my layer properties, I just have option A showing, which included the other door. So the barn door is missing. Okay, that's for option 2. So they have the bed here and the desk here, and the other ones are not showing. Awesome. So I'm going to double click out of this. Now I need to show the other option, maybe on a separate sheet of paper, because this one fits very nicely on here. And I can have my title block here, and I can have some text and dimensions. We're going to do all that later. But now I need to show a different piece of paper. Okay, makes sense to hit layout 2. I don't usually do it that way. I'll show you. If I click layout 2, I get the same thing like I created when I hit layout 1. I get everything showing. I have to turn off my grid. I have to set the scale. All the layers are showing. All the drawing is showing. Okay, I don't usually do it that way. So what I do instead is I actually delete layer 2. So I right click it and I delete it. That may freak you out. And it actually gives you a warning. Huh, do you really want to do that? Yeah, I do. I'm going to hit OK. The reason I do that is because I can create a copy of option A. I've already got everything set. In fact, I usually have my title block showing. I usually have all the text and dimensions showing. So it's wonderful to just create another copy. The way I do that is I right click over here on my option A, or whatever the first layout is now called, and I go to move or copy right here. So I'm going to click that, and notice it has this one highlighted. If I had a bunch of different ones highlighted, I may want to select that one, but the reason they give you this is if you didn't want to move it to the end. So if I don't select move to end, which by the way I always do, it will create a different copy right before this one. Okay, I hit create a copy because that's the only way it's going to create a copy. Otherwise, it's just going to move this one, and it can move it to the end, which keep in mind, you can do that. If you have them out of place, you can move something to the end of all your different layouts. And yes, you might have a bunch. You might have 20 or 30, but I can create a copy and it'll move it to the end of my list instead of moving it right before this one. I hit OK. And it did exactly that. Here's my second one. It's named the same thing except it says number 2 next to it. So I'm going to click this one because it's still on option A. I'm going to click the one it made. Shows the exact same thing. It's a perfect copy. But I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to rename and I'm going to say option B. So now I can have my option B showing. I'm going to do the same thing I did with option A. I want to now show option B, and notice option A is still showing. So I'm going to double click inside. I'm going to go to my layer properties. I'm going to click that. And now under VP freeze, I'm going to turn back on door 2, but freeze just the door, or I could have called that door 1. I'm going to turn back on, or thaw, technically, thaw freeze 2, and freeze the furniture 1. I'm sorry, did I call that door furniture 2? I want to thaw and I want to freeze furniture. So now I'm going to have door showing, or I'm going to have door 2 showing, and I'm going to have furniture 2 showing. I'm going to get out of that. And sure enough, behind me, it shows my other option. It also shows the barn doors instead of the pocket door. That's what I was trying to say earlier, and the swinging door. I'm going to double click out of this. It's locked, but I don't spend too much time in here if I don't have to. Now I have option A and option B. They are both at a 1/4 inch. So if I click this, notice it does say 1/4 inch here. It says 1/4 inch here. They're both to scale. But while I'm here, let me show you a project that I worked on, oh, I don't know. It looks like 2019 because of the number. But notice with this one, look at all the different layouts listed here at the bottom. In fact, if I just kind of hover at the top, you can see all the different layouts that were created for this project. And in fact, they go beyond this. So if I go to this arrow, they just keep going. I mean, the one that's in blue with the blue square is the one I'm showing you right now, but it's a lot of sheets, right? So that was for one project. Notice in model space for this one, I've got a bunch of different drawings showing. In fact, if I zoom in, I have walls on top of walls. So I have the second floor on top of the first floor. But what's only going to show is what I have displayed in the layout. Same thing over here. They wanted several different options for their tile pattern on the wall for their bathroom. So eventually when they decided what they wanted, I did a kind of like a cross through just in case they do what most clients do, and that is change their mind to something else. That way I don't have to redraw what I already drew. I just crossed right through it, and this is the one they actually selected. So if I actually go down here and find powder room, which I don't remember which sheet that was. Hopefully it's labeled as powder. Oh, look at that. Powder. It's going to actually show that drawing and that drawing only to scale at a ½ inch equals a foot. See, ½ inch equals a foot, which is usually what an elevation is shown at. And it says the title block, the title, all the notes, all the dimensions. This is how your drawings are going to look when you're done. How exciting! So let's go back to the one we've been working on. What if I wanted to show both options on the same sheet of paper at obviously a smaller scale and maybe something else? I can do the same thing. I can right click on option B. I can say move or copy. This time moving to the end would be good because I do want it to be the third one instead of the one before or in between A and B. I'm going to say create a copy. I'm going to say OK. And it did just what it did before. It created that one as a copy. I'm going to click that one and I'm going to rename this one. So I'm going to go to rename. I'm going to call it both options. Not very original titles, but you see what I mean. You can specify what they are. And if you don't rename them, you're going to have no idea what all those layouts are coming across because it'll just keep numbering them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anyway, with this one, what I really want to do is I want to change this option B that I have to a smaller scale. So I'm going to actually unlock it because I cannot change it. Notice it's grayed out. I can't change it because I locked it. I'm going to unlock it first. Now I can change the scale, and I'm going to change it to only be 1/8 inch equals a foot. So half as big, right? I'm going to hit, well, actually, I'm just going to move this out of the way. What I want to do now is I want to kind of bring my grips in. Notice you have these grips on the corner of your viewport. So when I click that, look what happens. I can bring in the viewport to only show what I want it to show. Maybe I didn't want it to show that whole car, right? I could even freeze the car, by the way. But now I can actually move it as well. I'm not within the viewport. I am just clicking the edge of it. If I was within it, it wouldn't allow me to move it. It would move what's inside. I still have the glass on. In other words, I'm still in paper space. Now what I can do is I can create another one just like this. I have two different ways of doing that. I'll show you the way I don't prefer, but it does come in handy for other things, and I'll use that in a moment. But notice what came across your ribbon when you went to Paperspace. This new tab right here called Layout appeared. It was not there when you were in Model Space. So going back to Model Space, not there. It only works in Paperspace. So I'm going to go back to that paper, both options. That's what I named it. And there it is. It only works in Paperspace because it's a way to you to create a new layout or functions within it. So when I click that, notice what I can do. Now all these are grayed out because these are things for 3D. So we're not going to look at those. But what I can do is I can create a new viewport. I can either create one, and this is probably rectangular showing right for you right now, but I can create one that's a rectangular or a polygonal, or I can change an object into one. Not any object, but like a circle or square. So if I did say rectangular And if I did come over here and it's asking for a corner, so I click with my left mouse and I come over here and I click with my left mouse again, it will do what it did before. It creates a viewport just like it did when I first went into my layouts. It fits it all within the square that I created. So I still have to go in and do all those parameters, right? Changing the scale, changing what I want to show, right? So I'm going to undo what I just did, and I'm going to do what I did before, what I always do. I'm going to go to the Home tab, and I'm going to select Copy, and I'm going to copy this viewport by clicking just the edge and clicking a space out here and copying it to the left. It's good to have them lined up, so I'm going to make sure that ortho is on. So I'm going to make a square over here. It's just like this one, but I'm going to have this one be option A. So I'm going to click inside, and I'm going to go up to my layer properties and do what I did before. I'm going to thaw my door and freeze my door too, and thaw my furniture and freeze my furniture too. Now, if I had other options or other things I wanted to show, I could do that. But I'm going to hit close. And now this is option A and this is option B. I'm going to double click just within my paper space to get out of those. But now I have both showing at 1/8 inch scale. So yes, I would put some titles under here. I would tell the scale. But what if I also wanted to show like maybe a close-up of like the bathroom? Okay. What I can do is I can create a new viewport. I'm still on the viewport layer, so that's the best layer to be on to create a new viewport. But let's say that I had a circle, or I even created a circle. And I just go out here and I draw a circle like this. Maybe I actually give it an exact dimension like 1.5 to be the radius. Okay. And 1.5 works perfect because this is what size piece of paper? Right, 8.5 by 11. I can turn this circle into a viewport. It's just a circle right now. So when I click it, it says circle, just like I thought, just like I created. But I'm going to go over here to Layout, up here at the top, like I was showing you. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to go underneath where it says rectangular, right here at this down arrow, and go to Object. When I select Object, then I go over here and I select the circle, and boom. Now, when I click this circle, it is a viewport. It's not a circle. So I can do exactly what I did before. I can double click with inside, and I can zoom in. And yeah, I don't know exactly what scale that is, so I just kind of wanted to get it centered. But I'm going to double click out. Oh, I don't have to double click out. I can stay inside and I can tell it a scale. Let's say, what scale would be a good scale for this one? Maybe 1/4 inch? That fits pretty well, doesn't it? Now, if I could move it, if I wanted, all the corners to show, I could just kind of move it slightly. Okay. But now I have a close-up of one of those bathrooms and it shows both doors. So I could freeze one, thaw the other. I could do that. What if I wanted to create a weird shape for my viewport? To get something weird to show. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I would actually create a weird shape for, but let's do that just so you can see how that would be done. I would go to polygonal up here for my new viewport, and I would click that. And no matter what kind of polygon I create, it'll show it everything in there. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to click over here. I'm just kind of making a weird size shape viewport kind of object going on over here. Like I said, it's very strange shape. But once I finish and hit enter, it tries to fit everything in there. It can't quite because of this angle. But I can double click and I can say, you know what? I just want to zoom into that toilet right there. Okay, I probably need to set a scale. So I'm going to go over here, down here at the bottom, where it's showing the weird scale. I'm going to click the down arrow, just like before, And I'm going to actually select, let's see, how about half inch? Ooh, that gets pretty close to that toilet, doesn't it? So double clicking out, if I wanted to call attention to maybe some special features on that toilet, this is how I would create a very different looking viewport. Now keep in mind, you can change those grips. So I could bring this in a little bit. Ooh, look how funky that's getting. I could move this over here, bring that in. I could maybe make sure this doesn't go through the wall, bring that in. So keep in mind that you can change your viewport. Same with up here with the rectangular ones. I can pull this. I love the rectangular ones because it pulls the entire side. And I could show part of the car if I wanted to do that. Or maybe I had a title down here that's not showing, but I know it's there. I could pull it down to make sure it shows. Okay. So that kind of shows you the very basics of creating some layouts. But what I also want to show you are some options that you can do with AutoCAD. So going to the big A right here in the corner, at least that's what I call the big A in the corner is the big A. Makes sense, right? Then I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says options, not one of these on the side where it says options. And I'm going to click here. And my computer sometimes takes a few seconds to actually bring up that dialog box. But there it is. And you never know on which tab it's going to bring it in on. But notice all these tabs at the top. Sometimes you want to change things in AutoCAD. So let's briefly go through these. Files, to find things specifically maybe within the AutoCAD file system. Okay. Display. The color theme is on dark. That has been the standard for years and years and years. And okay, like when dirt appeared on the earth. Okay, maybe not that long, but you can change it to be a light theme if you would prefer that. I've been so used to dark, I keep it on the dark theme. That is the standard. You can play around with these as much as you like. Okay. Another thing you can do is the display resolution. These are mostly for 3D, but it also helps on like drawing arcs and circles to see that they're actually smooth if you want to up that number. Keep in mind, anything that you increase in number will create a little bit more work for your computer. So just keep that in mind if you change those. Your crosshair size, you can make it bigger or smaller. So you're welcome to play with that. Okay, let me show you an example of making it bigger. Oh, it wants me to get out. Never mind. I'm not going to show you an example. It gets really large. It can cover your screen just as a crosshair. The XREF display, you're going to understand that more when we actually get into XREFs. So going to my next one up here at the top, which is open and save. This one is the frequency of your autosave. That's a big one. Some people don't want 10 minutes, some people want 5, some people want it longer. 10 minutes is a good standard, but it just is basically is how often is AutoCAD going to automatically save your drawing just in case something happens. This is a good time to remind you to save often because ACC is not responsible, and unfortunately neither am I, if you lose a file, if a file becomes corrupt, if something messes up, save often because you can always go back and get those, which is awesome. Don't turn off that you don't want it to create a backup file because that's a good thing to have in case something happens. So let's look at the next one. But notice you also, forgot before I go from here, save as, you can say what version of AutoCAD you want it to save to. So if you have somebody working on an older computer, you could save it down to 2000. Mine's saving to 2018. That sounds great to me. Plot and publish. So you can set your printer that you want it to automatically go to. And notice you can set it to your own printer. You can set it to a fax. Who would want to do that? I normally have it on drawing to PDF. I'm not quite sure why I didn't have that there to begin with. Your file location, where do you want it saved to automatically, that you can obviously change by going to the three dots. Um, the file format, that would be where? Forgot where that one is. Oh yeah, already did that one right there. Um, oh, this one's a good one. If you didn't want to see that printable area, you could turn it off. You could even turn off the edge of your paper. I love having the printable area showing because then I can see that, but this is up to you. Okay. The system to change your graphics performance if you're having trouble, like I seem to be having with mine. I've been going there a lot. And other things are security. User preferences. I showed you this one in an earlier video, or maybe it was when we were on our first day. User preference, this is what I always change when I first get AutoCAD or first go to somebody else's AutoCAD, is I go to right-click customization. Do you remember that? If I click that, I can check this box right here at the very top. Wonderful, wonderful box. Because then when I right click, it's acting like enter. So I don't actually have to push enter on my keyboard. I can right click real quick, see the duration, and it'll be an enter. If I hold down my right click, it doesn't do enter, which I love that about it because it can do both. So that's something you may want to change if you haven't already. Okay. Um, Other than that, I mean, obviously there's more explanation on your D2L about all these kind of things. Oh, the default scale. If you wanted to add another scale for those viewports, you can change it right here. Or if you wanted to go metric, you could do that too. I wouldn't do that. But see how you can add one. You can move some down, move some up. Don't need to do that right now. Your line weights are there. Drafting, underneath the drafting, you can see your marker size as well as your aperture size if you wanted to change those. Um, if you did not want your tooltips to show anymore, you could unclick that. 3D modeling, you wouldn't need anything here unless you were in 3D modeling, unless you didn't want to show, like, I don't know, the view cube or the icon. You could uncheck those. I can't guarantee that they would not show in 2D though. Your selection one, same thing. Your pick box and your grip size, you can change the size of those, as well as other features. So you can peruse those. And then the profile ones are cool because you can create your own profile. In addition to maybe this one, maybe you have a certain client where you have to just have certain options and defaults for maybe even metric, like if you're working with somebody overseas. Looks like mine have been brought in from previous versions, but I can have different profiles. So when I go to somebody else's computer or go to the school, I can set my own profile. So it has all the settings that I love to use. So those are some things that you can do with your AutoCAD. And like I said, the other more detailed options are on the D2L if you would like to check out those. And then this is your three layouts for at least this drawing right here. So in your assignment, have fun with creating new layouts and setting the scales, and we will see you next time.